The Russian soul. What is it? Do we really know anything about the Russians? What are they like? There's no better way to get to know the real Russians than to ask them questions face to face. There are 5 people in the studio, 4 foreigners and 1 Russian. The foreigners put away their bias, prejudice, and stereotypes in order to understand the whole depth of the Russian soul by asking questions that all of us always wanted to know.
In fact, was it him or was it someone else who said, I don't want to go, he said it, didn't he? I don't want to go abroad, I just want to go out of Moscow.
Yeah.
He said that was brilliant. It was, leaving Moscow is leaving the country. Yeah. All I have to do is just go into the regions. Mm-hmm. And I loved the tap, lap, boom. I have to remember that.
But when you say it's easier to be alone,
yeah.
It means that the basis of being in a relationship is something that's difficult.
Yeah.
Something that's really difficult, and do you know what? It's just easier to be alone.
He's also a creative director, I have to tell you. If you're a creative director, you have to get used to being alone because you're out at the front and all the buck stops with you.
Fair enough. It's like this kind of Russian existence is a constant challenge of proving yourself to yourself, proving your worth to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I think all 3 mentioned at least some kind of allusions to, making yourself proud,
developing
yourself,
yeah.
respecting yourself, and there's a lot of self-oriented questions where it's proving that you are worth something to yourself, not even necessarily to other people, but to yourself. I think there could be something in that.
Yeah, proving your own worth, that you're worth it.
I think there was a slight avoidance over specifying what actually the Russian soul is, because it's so hard to define.
Because I think the Russian soul is about something that is not there. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of an empty, it's always hard to describe something that isn't present.
But I think it's the base of so much literature and art.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So it must, to some extent, be an existing force.
I think it is a force. I think it changes you. I think it's something that overcomes your body and you begin to look at things differently.
Like just happened to you.
Exactly. You just start speaking Russian when you should be speaking English.
We need to get you exercise.
It's the Russian soul. It's descended upon you and taken control.
Он me goes to get it.
My name is Ilya. I'm from the Tver region, town of Kimry. I'm 32, and I've been living in Moscow since around 2005. Well, it turns out that I've been here for 15 years. I'm a creative director in an agency. What's friendship for you? I've always perceived friendship just as many other people. Spending time together with someone was for me a reason to believe that this person was my friend. I used to travel a lot before the coronavirus. I thought that I could call friends those people with whom I can be inside a car for a very long time. And then I got the feeling that friendship is something more than that. It happened so that my circle of friends has narrowed down considerably over the past 2 years. Now, I have very few of them. Now, I would call a friend not a person that I can call and they will help me, but probably those people whom I will help, and I will not feel uncomfortable with this. I mean, it's like I'm getting some energy in return. If I feel this response, then I can assume that we will have some kind of friendship. How do you feel about criticism? Of course, it is important not to stretch the truth here. On the one hand, well, my position is this. I deliberately force myself to understand that feedback is a champion's breakfast. I don't like being criticized behind my back. And I really like it when this criticism is soft. Let's say, when the right words are chosen. That is, I want people to treat me more gently, to explain to me that I'm wrong or something needs to be changed. In general, if it turns out like this, then I'm happy. But often I come across criticism that is just, I don't like anything. So how should I live with this criticism? I don't like you. And so what? How do you feel about lowbrow people? Positively. Positively? Really? In fact, my attitude differs in different situations. It depends on what you call it. We have different notions of lowbrow people. That is, there's such a thing as a huckster. For example, there's a concept as a noisy woman. This is a woman who behaves as if she were at the market. We used to have, you don't know it for sure, when I was little, earlier, I was afraid to go to the shop because the saleswomen were always rude, and it was impossible to argue with them. If something went wrong, then they immediately started shouting at you, arranging a farce. That's where the noisy woman concept came from. Noisy woman is probably a negative story. Is it negative? Yes, this is a negative one. This is a bad lowbrow person. Even now, not just in your childhood. I'm still afraid. Sometimes I go to the shop with caution. Yes, Russian women. They are a bit better prepared and able to move on. Flirting on the metro? Oh, well, I don't know.
Here, when you're friends with Russian people, they are super loyal and also straightforward. I like that very much, because in Ireland, they're not straightforward at all. It is better to be silent, and here, on the contrary, it's better to shout.
Oh, look, you can't do that in England. If I shout, ah, there. If I do that in England, it will be bad. But sometimes you have to shout. I mean, it's really hard for me to yell at work. But I've learned that sometimes you have to. Once I was at some negotiations, I just took a chair and threw it. If I had done that in England, I would have been dismissed immediately. Absolutely. That would be the end of the job in that place. It's just such a very Russian moment, and in England, just if I did it like that, it would be very bad.
Do you think women and men can be friends?
In fact, it seems to me that they can. I have a lot of girlfriends. I probably even have more girls among my friends than boys. At the same time, perhaps somewhere in another reality, theoretically, I'd hook up with them, I'd flirt. But it just so happens that we're still friends. So I'll be friends. And I'm even happy about it, because now girls are more responsive to some problems than boys. And sometimes it's easier to call a girl. They all have cars now. They all know how to do the same thing as the guys. And it's easier to call them. They will help you to fix things. They still have connections there. They'll help you and give you advice.
What kind of girls do you like? Typical chicks?
Typical chicks. Yes, in fact, this is such a difficult question. I like all women. That's what I would say.
That's a good answer, yes.
Diplomatic response. What? Diplomatic. Diplomatic. No, I actually like all women. They're all beautiful. The other thing is that I like some women because they're open, and I love others because they're so private. What do you envy?
Jealous.
Okay, I envy everything. I think it's a great quality. Well, on the one hand, it destroys a person, yes, because it makes you sick. But on the other hand, it charges you with energy. What is success for you? Probably to be able to do a lot. Once my teacher in Georgian said that you need to be 80% perfect in spirit, soul, and body. What is 80%? Why 80 and not 100? This is what he said. But how can you measure that 80%? It's easier to strive for 80 than for 100. Since then, I believe that success means being confident in yourself in the first place. This is the quality that you constantly lack in reality. How can you feel this edge in the modern world when envy turns from motivation into something destructive? When you realize that you're not moving on and you start getting irritated.
Love or money?
Probably money. Romance is not my thing at all.
Is it difficult to find love in Russia?
In fact, it's not difficult to fall in love, to find love. But it's difficult to keep this love. That's what I would probably answer.
Are you afraid to be in a serious relationship?
It's easier to be alone. How can you handle it? Work and endure it. Probably this is the only way. In Russia, people really like to give advice. For a person like me, with such an upbringing, this is a life school to get rid of the ego. Very often, people who come here from the West, they want to be already right. That is, they want to know everything already, and this is not possible in Russia. This is impossible. In Russia, people will tell you the most banal things so that you develop yourself. Or when you're sick, it's like every time I find out for the first time that I need to drink tea with ginger and lemon.
It is a unique country that everyone knows about, but no one knows it really well, even in the language. There are many words that cannot be translated into English. For example, classic. What does the word toska mean? Is it sorrow? What is it?
It's a pleasure in suffering. This is when a person suffers and wants to suffer. A worldview that accepts difficulties. And sometimes this person indulges in the fact that everything is bad.
It is a very unusual feeling. It might be sad, but it's even deeper than sadness. Maybe it's melancholy?
This is because people here are very fond of philosophy. They're very fond of asking questions. They're very fond of thinking deeply. That's not a bad thing. It's interesting.
In Russia, people from different places differ so much. But they're all Russian. Do you feel that they share something in common? Some features? The general mentality?
Well, there is something, of course. Let's just say that if you divide a Russian person into layers, like a pie, then the upper layers would be a bit different, but they are thin. For example, it can be a dialect or appearance. You'll recognize a Siberian at once. But when you start to interact with them more deeply, it turns out that we live in some common space. That is, the feeling of these connecting threads actually begins. And each nationality has certain characteristics. That is, if you communicate with a Siberian, then you must also develop a certain tone. You need to understand what their values are. You need to understand what they want from you. You need to understand what you can give them now and what they want from you. The Tatars have their thing. The Northerners have the third thing. The guys who are in the South, they have the fourth thing. Well, that is, there are certain features everywhere. Kalmuks and so on, there are many different nationalities. Yakuts, the guys from the Far East have a slightly different perception of the world, in principle, different ambitions, different goals. I wonder what kind of pie is Russia, if you take all of it completely? I think it's probably such a thick sponge cake. A thick sponge cake. Yes. With a few nuts on it that might break your teeth. How are the layers? Yes, layers. Yes. A little rum? Well, not exactly rum, but probably a little vodka. You probably know, like a layer that allows you to go deeper into this cake and face a new layer, right? And on top, there can be quite a simple topping, without any tricks. And a delicious cake in the end. I don't know. It's probably a bit bitter, if you think about it like that.
What is your least favorite folk qualities?
Well, here it is. My least favorite folk quality is when people do things tjap-lap.
Tjap-lap?
Tjap-lap? Yeah, well, this is like... And that's it. Tjap-lap, tjap-lap, right? I like it. Yes, a lot of things are done tjap-lap. That is, there's not enough patience.
Is it because of laziness?
No, more probably it's about impatience.
Oh, yeah?
Impatience. This might be related to envy to some extent. This may be due to this kind of obsession that is constantly imposed on us. We're so slow on the draw, and then we need to do things fast.
Whose opinion still impacts your life? Maybe your parents' opinion? Maybe the opinion of your teachers?
Well, first of all, education definitely affects me and is of great importance. My mother always forced me when I was a child. She just poked me in the forehead with her finger and said, "You'll be a dumbass if you don't make an effort." She made me do it, and that's really what I realized later, that it's important to make yourself work. What makes a man and a woman? Probably beauty and tenderness make a woman a woman. And a man is a man because of his actions. That is, he should be a man of action. 3 things. Honey cake, friendship, well, the theater. The theater is really very different in Russia, even if compared with Europe. I always thought this is some kind of European theater, and in America everything is kind of stupid in this regard. But really, it's very different here. It's bright, smart, energetic, crazy, but with good sense. And what else? And deep. This is just not clear. To feel freedom, to see beauty, and try the pancakes. What are you proud of? Oh, if you mean being proud of myself, then I'm probably proud of the fact that I overcame my laziness at some point, and I learned to force myself to do different things. I'm probably proud that I have tried a lot already, and the desire to try even more is still alive with me. I play football. I speak 6 languages. I have 3 diplomas. 6 languages? Yes. Wow! I got such an education where I studied 6 languages simultaneously, full-time. I also have a theological background. That is, I'm a religious scholar.
Does God exist?
We can discuss this topic for a long time, but I think that many will answer that yes. Well, because yes.
So it's enough to say yes.
I've had many situations where supernatural powers definitely helped me.
What do you think we live for?
I have 2 hypotheses. The first is for the future eternal life. Because otherwise, why would it all be? And the second is because we live for the sake of others. To some extent, I'm philosophical about this issue. After all, this is a certain way. Are Russians very philosophical people? I think so. There's such a thing that the answers to the questions, why are you here and who are you, are more important for Russians than any achievements. I think you have the ability to remain human in very different conditions. Yes. What is it like? I still probably perceive the word human as an image. That is, in principle, the whole image, the body, the spirit, the soul, yes, tentatively speaking. You're made of all of it. What you say, it shapes your image. So, preserve this image probably is to preserve yourself as a person. That is, to remain human. Don't behave like a pig, don't go below your level. As we say, don't fall below the baseboard. There were a lot of examples in the Great Patriotic War. Things happened there, yes. But you would still save your comrade there. I mean, you might get shot, but you're still going to get him out. This is staying human. Tentatively speaking, you give a hunk of bread to someone else, even if it is your last one, but you understand that this person needs it more than you. It's staying human. Maybe no one will even notice it, but here's my own self here. It should be unshakable, in my opinion.
What is the Russian soul?
Russian soul is rather a collective image, probably more literary. It combines a certain set of qualities that are characteristic of people who live in Russia. And these qualities...
It's obvious. Tell us explicitly.
It's difficult. It's a lifestyle, you know. This is a collective way of life. And by the way, I think it's these Russian stories. They probably always differ in their strangeness, some incomprehensible eventfulness and a weird combination of circumstances. I think this could only happen in American movies. It seems that we flew to save someone, but at the last moment, the screw fell off and we urgently need to save something else. I think they read Russian fairy tales before composing it all. Because it is exactly our essence that is filmed in America. But in our country, it can happen in a real situation. Because I, for example, will not particularly strive to maintain my car. I will wait until the last moment, until it creaks. Well, because I'm busy, I have no time, there are more important things. And so that you understand that at the most important moment, in the most dramatic situation, this wheel will break somehow. And yet, in this situation, something else is bound to happen. Some other adventure. For example, I would still go somewhere, meet someone, and this someone would turn out to be very important. That important person would come and repair my wheel, and there will be some mayhem. We would not only repair the wheel, but also drink some alcohol.
Well, this is understandable. And what about the soul? The soul?
And it's like all of this is the soul.